Iran has launched attacks on Israel in retaliation for Israeli strikes on Iranian military officials and infrastructure. An Israeli military official saying dozens of incoming missiles were detected. These images show the Iron Dome defense system over Tel Aviv, and there have been reports of at least one missile impact. Joining me now is the Hill's White House columnist Niall Stanage. Now, what do you make of these images we're seeing coming out of Tel Aviv?
Look, obviously any image of war or of missiles being fired from one sovereign nation to another are troublesome. There are reports in the Israeli media, notably Haaretz, a reputable Israeli newspaper, that around 100 missiles have been fired from Iran to Israel. There have been reports of some hits in the Tel Aviv area. Haaretz is quoting residents of the Tel Aviv area in that respect. So look, we did expect, obviously, there to be some kind of retaliation from Iran. The Iranian leadership had flagged that pretty clearly. Iran's supreme leader had said that Israel would face severe consequences, in his words, for its strike. So the fact that a strike is taking place is no big surprise, obviously. In any conflict, one worries about the innocent people getting caught up in it.
You know, it may be too early to answer this question, but I think one of the things that people will be trying to understand is this escalatory, or is this kind of a safe face-saving measure by the Iranian leadership?
It's a great question, and a lot depends, of course, on whether this is another rung in a ladder of escalation. It's notable that on the Israeli side, Benjamin Netanyahu has said that the Israeli operation will take as long as it takes, and there has been some reporting from unnamed Israeli officials that they are planning up to 2 weeks of strikes or attacks of some kind on Iran. So I think we have real difficulty in getting visibility on whether this is going to escalate out of control, or whether in this case it's the Iranians feeling they have to hit back, otherwise be humiliated, but with no real intention of escalating the overall situation further.
The other question that I've been thinking about is how capable is the Iranian military actually right now? You know, these attacks that were launched by Israel decapitated some of the top military officials in the country. Also, there were attacks on military installations that reportedly severely limited the ability for Iran to respond, at least initially. What do we know about Iran's capacity to wage war at the moment?
One thing that we at least think we know is that Iran doesn't have the kind of intelligence capabilities inside Israel that Israel appears to have inside Iran. To take just one example, Drew, there's some suggestion that the Israelis knew in advance where very senior Iranian military leaders would huddle knowing an Israeli attack was coming, and the Israelis then hit that location. We really haven't seen anything from the Iranian side suggesting they have anywhere near that level of intelligence. Then there's the separate topic, which I think you're primarily alluding to in your question, which is Israel's capacity to protect itself, at least to a large degree, through the so-called Iron Dome, and Iran's difficulty in piercing that dome in a prolonged or high-intensity way. So I think there is a basic military disparity here.
What are you watching for when it comes to potential U.S. involvement in this conflict? You know, it was interesting to see Secretary of State Marco Rubio immediately came out after the initial attacks by Israel, saying this was a unilateral Israeli action. America wasn't involved. But you know, Israel is a long-standing ally of the United States. If it has seen that Israel is under attack, if there are actually missiles hitting Israeli cities, I assume that there would be pressure on the U.S., the Trump administration, to act on in accordance, you know, in an ally with Israel.
There would absolutely be that pressure. The question is how the Trump administration would react to that pressure. We have already seen Republican senators like Lindsey Graham, for example, one of the more pro-interventionist, maybe most pro-interventionist among Republican senators, talking about how the United States has to go all in behind Israel. Now, in relation to the broader political split, There are some in the MAGA movement, I would say, who are very skeptical of the United States potentially getting drawn into another regional war in the Middle East. They are not thrilled by this turn of events and are really hoping that the Trump administration can keep the United States out of it. The degree to which there is that split within, I would say, the broader Republican movement in the Trump era does mark things out from where they were 20 years ago or so, when we obviously had the Iraq war being launched and the war in Afghanistan being launched. We're in a different political time now.
Yeah, obviously, you have figures like Tucker Carlson, who's been very influential in the conservative movement, saying that the U.S. should stay out of that. Other figures on the right echoing that same sentiment. So it'll be very interesting to watch the developments both in domestic politics, but internationally as this event unfolds. We'll continue to follow it, but for now, we'll leave it at that. White House columnist Niall Stanage, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Drew.